Hi, my name is Andy. I'm from Hilborn Fuel Injection. Most know that a Hilborn Fuel Injector provides a major increase in top-end power and torque, along with providing low speed torque, razor-sharp throttle response, and an increase in engine acceleration rate. But what most don't know is that a Hilborn Fuel Injector also provides excellent part throttle drivability. In order to achieve this drivability, butterfly adjustments are required. In this video today, we will go over the correct procedure on adjusting the butterflies and setting the correct arc. And in our second video, we will go over the use of the cyclometer to go ahead and fine-tune the butterflies for exceptional exhaust notes. The instructions we will cover today are not only excellent for those driving it in electronic form, but also a great baseline adjustment for those using it as a mechanical and race-only injector. Before we get started with any butterfly adjustments, we do need to remove our ram tubes and also remove any throttle linkage or return springs. And now we can get right into the actual art of adjusting the butterflies on your Hilborn injector. Okay, as mentioned earlier, we've removed the ram tubes, taken off the throttle linkage and any return springs. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start setting up to go ahead and center the butterflies in the bore. And centering the butterflies in the bore ensures that the butterflies have dropped all the way and we're starting out from the completely closed position when we start to do our arc adjustments. The first thing we're going to do is back off the throttle stops. And there's a throttle stop typically on either end of the injector manifold, and this will be backed off all the way. Most injector manifolds have 2 throttle stops. Some will have 3, but they should all be backed down to make sure that the butterflies are allowed to close all the way. Next, we're going to loosen one of the gold arms that controls the hex link to make sure that the butterflies are allowed to operate independently of each other. And next, we're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen up the 8 screws on one side of the injector manifold for the butterflies so we can center them in the bore. An important point to note is that if you've ever had the injector manifold apart and the butterflies out, the butterflies have a bevel on them, and that the bevel must be installed with the bevel portion resting against the wall of the injector. Alright, now that we've got the screws loose, we're going to take the butterfly shafts and slide them back and forth, and while doing that, we're going to tap on the butterflies to center them in the bore. We're then going to go ahead and center the shaft on the butterflies and then go ahead and tighten up the screws. I like to tighten up one screw on each butterfly, then go back and tighten up the other one. Now the butterfly screws do not have any Loctite on them, nor are they pinched at the factory to be locked into the shaft, because anytime the manifold comes off the engine, these adjustments will have to be performed again. The screws are just held in with a lock washer. Okay, so now we've got that side done, and for the sake of time on this video, we'll assume that we've adjusted the other side already. Okay, so now we've got our butterflies dropped down completely for our starting position for our arc adjustment. But before we actually start the arc adjustment, there are a couple adjustments we actually need to make with the hex link first. Now, with a one-piece injector manifold, such as a small block Chevrolet, the length of the hex link is preset at the factory, getting you really close to your final adjustment. But on a 3-piece injector, we get as close as we can, but still there may be some adjustment that needs to be done in order to go ahead and get this in the ballpark before we start our actual adjustments. The idea with the hex link is to make sure that the center of the heim joints is the same center dimension as the actual butterfly shafts. And no tooling is really required. What we're going to do is we're going to do an eyeball arrangement to make sure that the shafts are, that the hex link is the same center dimension. So we'll loosen up our jam nuts on our hex link. The groove here in the hex link indicates that it's a left-hand thread. and in this particular case I'm going to lengthen it to go ahead and get our eyeball center to center length. And I'll lightly tighten up the jam nuts. Okay. Our next adjustment is going to be making sure that our gold arm for our hex link rests on either side of center between idle and wide open throttle. And you can see the starting position at the idle for this hex link, or for this gold arm, and when we swing it to wide open throttle you can see where it rests. It does go completely to the opposite side, and it does touch the casting. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this so that way it rests on either side of the shaft between idle and wide open throttle. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen this. And once again, it is basically just an eyeball adjustment. So we're going to get it as close as we can here. Check it, you need a little bit more. That looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and we'll tighten it up a little bit. And now we are ready to perform our hex link adjustment. With our butterflies down completely all the way, I'm going to snug up this gold arm. And using two pieces of what I call gauging material, this just happens to be two pieces of 5/16 shaft material with a small little point on either side, which makes it easy to go ahead and get in. We're going to position a gauging material right in the center of the butterfly. We're going to go ahead and insert it into the butterfly. And in this particular case, we are just a little bit tight. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a hex link length change, so that way this fits in there with a little bit of snugness, just like on this opposite side. So very simply, we're going to go ahead and loosen our jam nuts. In this particular case, I'm just going to go ahead and shorten the hex link by about 3/4 of a turn. Snug up our jam nuts. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the gold arm. And here's the key. Anytime we make a hex link length change, we must loosen the gold arm, one of the gold arms on the hex link, to allow the butterflies to drop down to their starting neutral position. And you'll notice I'm not actually setting the hex length to make sure that the butterflies fit the gauging material. We're changing the actual arc of the butterflies to make sure that they fit the gauging material. So once again, we'll drop our gauging material into the center, and we'll drop it down. Wow, look at that. Perfect. And then we'll go ahead and lock up our jam nuts for our hex link. Make sure that both of our gold arms are nice and tight. And there you have it. The correct way to go ahead and set your butterflies and your hex link. Next, we're going to get this baby in the car and get ready to perform the final adjustment, which we're going to do exactly again with everything warmed up, and start with the synchrometer. Well, that concludes our first video on tuning and adjusting your butterflies. Please join us again for our subsequent video on using the synchrometer to fine-tune and to get the perfect exhaust note. If you'd like written directions for tuning the butterflies, they are available on our website, which is hilborninjection.com, out under our technical section. From all of us at Hilborn Fuel Injection, we'd like to thank you very much for using our product. Thank you.